kuwa mesabe balo punyale muyalla.
The challenges we face as a global society today have never been more complex. This has been worsened by the COVID-19 pandemic and the lockdowns that ensued. And a key question facing us, the business community today, is what role does business play or have to play in addressing these challenges? And in addressing them in a manner that aligns, on the one hand, commercial bottom line and societal value or social success on the other hand. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Dichabas Kosana. I am a finance lawyer looking after legal risk management of Standard Bank. I've also served as a corporate secretary to two sister companies of Standard Bank, being Stanley Lesotho, an investment company, and Liberty Life Insurance Lesotho. I have also been involved in a number of national regulatory projects for Lesotho, and the most recent one being the drafting of Lesotho's first corporate governance code 2019. And it is my humble pleasure to welcome you all to this important webinar. And to those of us who are joining this event from outside of Lesotho, we wish to extend a special welcome to you into the Kingdom of Lesotho. You are virtually in Lesotho today. A lot has been written about corporate social responsibility. A concept we have all become too familiar with over the last couple of decades. And some of the initial questions most of us would be asking, I believe, would include whether shared value creation is just another name for corporate social responsibility, or is there some overlap between these two concepts? Some people may take it even further and ask, is it not true that an enterprise that creates and offers value at the core of its business strategy to customers also transforms that societal value offering into its bottom line financial value for its shareholders, or in broad terms, its stakeholders? Ladies and gentlemen, to help us unpack these questions and more, we are joined by a panel of guests and speakers who are going to talk to us about their experience with the concept of shared value. And it is my pleasure to welcome Mr. Salvatore Niozima, a resident coordinator at the United Nations. I also have the pleasure to welcome Vuyo Lutleke, who is head of stakeholder engagement, fundraising, and membership at Shared Value Africa Initiative and Shift Impact Africa. Also joining us from Zimbabwe is Simba. Simba is the founder and managing director of Oxygen Africa, a Zimbabwean renewable energy development company. We're also joined by Karen Basia from Kenya. Karen is the Senior Manager for Sustainability and Social Policy at Safaricom. From our own Kingdom of Lesotho, we are joined by Ntatele Rata Pekane. He's a founder and patron of a social enterprise movement called I Am a Change Agent. He's also the former Principal Secretary of the Ministry of Small Business Development, Cooperatives and Marketing of the Government of the Kingdom of Lesotho. Also from Lesotho, we are joined by Mamotake Matekane, who heads the Communications and Marketing Department for Matekane Group of Companies, commonly known as MGC, a diverse company operating under different industries, such as aviation, construction, property development, hospitality, and mining, both in Lesotho and in South Africa. Also joining us from Lesotho Chamber of Commerce and Industry is Ntate Ntauta Seboka. Ntate Ntauta is the current president of Lesotho Chamber of Commerce and Industry. He's also the founder and director of Batupili Polyclinic and Maternal Clinic. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome and thank you for your time. A special thanks goes to Lesotho Chamber of Commerce, United Nations Lesotho, and Shared Value Africa Initiative for making this event possible. We will start off our event with some opening remarks from Mr. Salvatore Niozima. We then move on to the introduction, just at the high level, of the concept of shared value by Vuyo before we turn over to our keynote speaker, Simba. We will then move our focus to a panel discussion followed by a Q&A session for all the delegates and attendees. You may type in your questions at any at this stage, and we'll go through them during the Q&A session before we conclude our webinar. Let's now start with some opening remarks from Salvatore. Salvatore.
Right, sorry, I was on mute. Thank you very much, Program Director. Please, everybody, good morning. Kindly allow me to pay my respect to His Majesty King Letsie III, the Right Honorable the Prime Minister, the Honorable President of the Senate, the Honorable Speaker of the National Assembly, and the Honorable Ministers and Deputy Ministers of His Majesty's Cabinet. And I would like to also recognize colleagues from the UN who are around this call, and the distinguished speakers and facilitators, representatives of local, regional, international organizations, civil society, the private sector. In particular, today we have heard that there are private sector people. And with that, let me just simply say all protocol observed. I'm really delighted to be here virtually today to welcome you all and to provide the opening remarks for what I believe is a very important topic, which is shared value. The core of shared value is business conscientiousness for society. And as you can hear, I'm already bringing together two elements, business and society. This conscientiousness spans many arenas. It includes treating one's employee justly, paying them fairly, providing decent breaks and holidays, and ensuring a safe working environment. It also includes safeguarding one's supply chain to ensure that every business that you work with also holds itself to the highest social standards. And it includes protecting our environment, ensuring that one's business operations do not harm the environment or contribute towards climate change through emitting greenhouse gases. The United Nations Sustainable Development Goals embody the principles of shared value because it brings together the economy, the social sectors, and the environment. Unfortunately, and we know that COVID-19 has complicated the issue of shared value. On the one hand, the current pandemic has illustrated the importance of an equal and inclusive society. But at the same time, it has also highlighted and even aggravated, exacerbated inequalities in our societies. As vulnerable people and communities lose their livelihoods due to movement restrictions to contain the pandemic, economies will falter, social cohesion will become unstuck, and public health will deteriorate further as living standards fall. Economies will only recover if every individual in those economies can also recover from the pandemic. So it looks like what I'm saying in different words and phrasing is we just have to understand that we are in this together, and that some people will not be shielded while others are hit, because we are all hit at the same time. Yet, on the other hand, COVID-19 has deeply hurt the private sector, and you know that much better than I can possibly do. Many of you will also know that micro, small, and medium-sized enterprises have been acutely hit, with less capital buffers to see them through the pandemic, limited access to finances as commercial lenders shy away from their perceived risk, and less secure supply chains due to their frequently informal nature. Many micro, small, and medium-sized enterprises are ill-equipped to survive. Given the increasing stress placed on the private sector, it appears difficult for the private sector to increase spending on social and environmental protection. I was just now, before coming to this meeting, participating in the regional meeting organized by Economic Commission for Africa. And by the way, for your information, Lesotho is chairing the meeting. And one of the issues that came to the fore was, what can the private sector play in terms of supporting, and what are the government's responsibility to support the private sector to play a role in responding and recovering from COVID-19. At the same time, I believe that sustainable businesses are actually better equipped to weather the storm. A business that prioritizes profit above its employees and the environment is probably not sustainable. To have a healthy, happy, and productive workforce that will add value to a company's purpose requires employee investment, but this will pay off in the long run. So it is an investment. Similarly, protecting one's work environment, ensuring that it is clean and safe, will enable you to continue to operate in that environment without degradation, and will hopefully allow you to thrive. So climate change will threaten all businesses and economies if it is not addressed. The concept of shared value is a business strategy designed to solve social issues profitably, social issues and profit together. It does this by leveraging the resources and innovation of the private sector to create new solutions to some of society's most pressing issues, and I should add, new challenges like COVID-19. In addition to the benefits mentioned above, shared value opens investment opportunities through innovations. The rise of social and green investors provide increasing financing options to companies that can demonstrate their positive impact. So this workshop represents, for me, a very good opportunity to share ideas about business survival in the era of COVID-19, but also business contributions. Sorry, the lights went off. Business contributions to responding to the pandemic. So I would like to very much thank Shared Value Africa Initiative and the Lesotho Chamber of Commerce and Industry for partnering with us. I also thank the distinguished speakers and facilitators for their valuable contributions, and I wish you all a very fruitful workshop. I thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Salvatore Ozima, for those insightful remarks. And I think a highlight for me is when you mentioned that the concept of shared value is about solving social issues profitably. That was really the highlight for me. Thank you so much. We will now move on to the introduction of the concept of shared value by Vuyo. Vuyo?
Thank you so much, Tichaba, and thank you so much to Salvatore for your opening remarks. I think that was a wonderful introduction to not only what I'm about to say, but I think also today's session. I'm very pleased to be here on behalf of the Shared Value Africa Initiative, alongside our hosts, the Lesotho Chamber of Commerce and Industry, as well as the UN. And what I'm going to go through over the next slides is really introductory overview of the principles of shared value, and really providing a context for the discussion that will follow. So what is creating shared value? Very importantly, this is a phrase, a framework rather, that was developed by Professors Mark Kramer and Michael Porter at Harvard Business School. And looking at the definition currently on screen, it's important that it starts with your policies and practices. Those are your internal elements of shared value. How do you treat your suppliers and staff? A better environment leads to better productivity within a business and a better attitude towards the organization itself. And if there's improved productivity and attitude, it spills over into the communities in which we operate. Shared value is about aligning a business's bottom line with creating value for society. Simply put, it is about profit with purpose. It's also very important, linking back to what Tichaba said in his introduction, to understand what shared value is not. Shared value is not corporate social investment, where a company or organization will give towards a social cause with no expectation of return on investment. It is also not corporate social responsibility, which relates more to good corporate citizenship, where we're talking about, paying your taxes, paying your employees well, doing no harm to the environment, and really your social license to operate. Importantly, it's not philanthropy, where we can look at the Bill Gates and Warren Buffett of the world, who give, a lot towards social causes and then see what social impact is a result of that. And also importantly, shared values itself speak to more a belief system that an individual or a company aligns to. Shared value, very importantly, is that your business strategy has not only a financial benefit for the company, but also a social benefit as well attached to it. If you're looking at the word cloud currently on the screen, these are all phrases and words that exist within the shared value narrative, that exist within the shared value universe. You know, ecosystems, which is very important, sustainability, social inclusiveness, purpose, you know, and of course, profit. These are all encompassed within the shared value narrative when you're developing your strategy as well as implementing shared value throughout the business. So Salvatore earlier as well mentioned the Sustainable Development Goals. We're about to go into the decade of action as we're counting down to 2030. And as we look at implementing shared value, we do so by aligning business strategies to these SDGs. There are 17 goals in total. 16 speak to social and environmental issues that need to be addressed. And the business needs to identify which of these issues affect the business and the society that it operates in, and then look at the social value that you can develop around this as a response. Shared value is not, it is rather a tool for business to address the SDGs. It's not a product, it's a strategy. And very important to keep that in mind as you are reviewing what your business could do in response to social issues that you might come across. There are 16 overall. A business can definitely address more than one, but certainly doesn't have to be all of them. The 17th goal for us in the shared value universe, in the shared value community, is very important because partnerships for the goals also speaks to collaboration. And on that word collaboration, you know, come back to it again. And I think it's very important that we note that civil society as well as government have over the years in numerous ways addressed social ills, social issues that come up in various regions and societies. However, business is a very important element of creating shared value because business does have the resources and the capacity required to really invest into these solutions and do so in a way that will result in sustainable outcomes for not only business itself, but also for the society that it operates in. So looking at the framework here, it's very important that in addressing shared value, the three pillars that you're looking at the screen are looked at and really delved into deeper within your business. Reconceiving products and markets speaks to the innovation element, and I'm going to go into a little bit of detail about this later when I give the Mkopa business case. Redefining productivity in the value chain really is talking about increasing a company's productivity as well as a supplier base's outputs. So for example, Nestle a few years ago was losing its competitive edge due to the quality of their coffee beans that they're producing. And in response to this, then invested in coffee farmers that were in Cote d'Ivoire and upskilled and trained them to really produce the top quality beans that they needed as Nestle to get back to the top of the game, as it were. This not only turned the page on the production quality for Nestle as a brand and across its different deliverables, but also empowered these farmers as businesses as well as the Nestle's broader supply chain and value chain. And that's an example of how to redefine productivity in the value chain, a very important pillar when delivering shared value. And then also the third is enabling local cluster development, which really is about, you know, the ecosystems that you create in your shared value implementation and strategy, you know, being sustainable even beyond your business's participation within that. So how, looking at this also speaks to how does a business assess a shared value opportunity? Very simply put, you know, thought process that one can go through. What social issues affecting your businesses and many businesses in society? If you address it, can you make money out of the innovation or solution that you provide? From there, you can build a business case around it. And it's very important that you look beyond the norm and really innovate, as that is a key part of your competitive edge. Look at solutions that will ultimately improve lives, and ideally solutions that perhaps no one has initiated before you have done so. innovation is very key. I mentioned earlier around Mkopa. So Mkopa was founded in Kenya, and they are a great example of defining new markets. They were founded about 9 years ago, and what Mkopa delivers is a solar energy powered pay-as-you-go product, right? And this was the first ever such product to be delivered. And when they did so, they were able to provide families who previously were not able to afford electricity. 750,000 of those families now had access to electricity. And as a result of that one product that was delivered, children were able to study for longer into the day, into the evening. Families that were using kerosene lighting or fire were now even healthier because they were no longer inhaling the fumes of kerosene. And also, while not buying kerosene, the families also saved a lot of money, right? So this is an example of one product, innovative product that goes on into society. But also, if you're looking at on the right-hand side of the screen, the 6 SDGs that they were also tackling in what they deliver to the community. On the business impact side, of course, a new product development means, they had sales agents that were going out into the community. But even when it came to production of the hardware, manufacturing also came into it, and also further jobs were created. The families that save money, those 750,000 families that save money, now $13.5 million was able to be plowed back into the economy. And you're looking also at the fact that families were also able to have some kind of credit record because of the system that was used in buying and paying for the Mkopa system. As we implement shared value, I mentioned earlier it was established by Professors Porter and Kramer in 2011. So it is a fairly new concept. And in its implementation, especially in Africa, we as Shared Value Africa Initiative have become aware of various challenges that businesses might face in tackling this. And in our advocacy work, we want to help in resolving these very important issues. So, for example, when we're looking at, identifying shared value as a strategy, it's important that you do so not as a knee-jerk reaction to an issue, but also a long-term commitment. Implementing shared value does not mean that you get a short-term fix. It's very much about a journey that you embark on as a business, and one that will show you results the more you work in it and over time. I mentioned earlier, very early on, about what shared value is not. It's very important that we understand that shared value is not philanthropy, CSR, or CSI. Tying it back to the financial value that the business itself is able to create as a result of implementing shared value. And I think as well, in talking about shared value, we also want to emphasize that it's very important that leadership buys into the idea of profit with purpose. It's very important that it is something that does not exist within a silo, within an organization, but really a strategy that is entrenched throughout, from the leadership to every single member of that organization. And those are such things that we work and want to make sure that are clarified, and that the private sector is able to really face head on and tackle as we continue to grow the shared value implementation across the continent. And so what I want to leave you with is really some thoughts around organizational purpose. Purpose is not a vision or a mission. It expresses a company's reason for existing. As we like to say, the reason that you wake up in the morning. If someone were to wake up in the middle of the night, would you be able to remember your company's purpose? It's a simple statement that really is people-centered. It's not technical, and for the most part doesn't even directly say what it is that you do, but really speaks to the outcomes that you want to have and the impact that you want to have in society at large. So ultimately then, shared purpose becomes the very first step in a company's shared value journey. Looking at the screen now, here are some quick examples of different companies and their purpose statements, highlighting Safaricom, which is one of the founding members of the Shared Value Africa Initiative. And I know Karen from Safaricom is on our panel today, and it would be great to hear from her at Safaricom what it means to say transforming lives, and and how as an organization they live that and they embody that every single day as they do the work that they do. And of course, another example is APSA, another member of the Shared Value Africa initiative, whose purpose is bringing possibilities to life. It's a bank, but their purpose is nothing about, finances or financing of any sort, but really what dreams one might have as a result of the services that they deliver out into society. So thinking about it that way, I encourage you to think about your organization's purpose statement and look at it through this lens. Does it communicate your organization's reason for existing clearly and simply? And I think that would be a great way to then start looking at how one, from developing a purpose, could ultimately start their shared value journey, understanding the principles and really looking at what solutions your business could provide to society and aligning that with profit at the same time. So as mentioned earlier, well, I'm mentioning it now for the first time, that please visit our website. I gave you a snapshot of what it is to create shared value, but I think our website holds various case studies that I think are very important in deciding on your organizational purpose journey, as well as your shared value journey, as well as our YouTube, which also holds various content and materials of different conversations and discussions that we have around purpose and creating shared value. And of course, my contact details are also on screen, where I invite you all to reach out to me with any comments or questions around possibly how you might be able to start your shared value journey as an organization and grow from there. Thank you so much, Tichaba. I'd like to hand over to you now.
Thank you so much, Vuyo, for those important insights. And I personally think they help us shape today's conversation into the right perspective in terms of what shared value is and what it is not. And I liked it when you said shared value is not a short-term fix, it's a long-term commitment. And I think we are in it for a very long time. And it calls for the leadership to change our thinking. It is now my pleasure to introduce our keynote speaker, Simba. I earlier indicated that Simba is the founder and managing director of a Zimbabwean company called Oxygen Africa. Simba.
Good morning, everybody, and thank you for having me. It's always a pleasure to join Tiki and Vuyo as we spread the word and try and advocate for shared value across Africa. I'd like to thank the UN Lesotho, the leadership of Lesotho, and everyone from Lesotho who's participating for joining us this morning. And we hope we'll have an exciting discussion that will see shared value become the center or the core of each of your endeavors, be it government, business, and moving forward. So my name is Simba Muriro. I'm the founder and managing director of Oxygen Africa. I'm also interim MD for Rio Zim Limited, former Rio Tinto, the energy division. Interestingly, I also sit on the board of Stanbic Zimbabwe, as well as I do quite a bit of work, especially in livelihoods and renewables and mentorship with UNESCO, ILO, and UNDP in Zimbabwe. My other roles include the board of directors for the Institute of Directors Zimbabwe, as well as a member of the Global Future Council of Entrepreneurship at the World Economic Forum. But this morning I'll pretty much discuss my journey and where my purpose came from. I started Our Sun Energy in 2013. I quit my job working for Southern Sun. We raised $7 million. Things went terribly awry and I lost my business. Together with the $7 million, I lost my life savings, and pretty much was the end for me. I still remember one night in January 2015. I remember the exact date. It was the 17th. I walked out of home at 12 midnight because the intention was to pretty much take my own life. And it's funny, when you want to commit suicide, you all want to die, but you're scared to feel the pain. So your biggest debate with yourself is how you're going to do it. So walking along the railways, I found an old man He talked me out of it, and pretty much this is where the next morning I sort of decided to myself that, listen, if I'm going to go out, I'm going to go out on my own terms, and I will start this project again. I had an old MOU with Old Mutual. I still remember that morning. Pretty much a couple of days later, I traveled to Harare, and unfortunately, with public transport from a small town called Marunde, where I used to stay, which is about 80 kilometers east of Harare, I didn't have enough money to go from the CBD to the Old Mutual headquarters, which is about 8 kilometers away from the CBD. So I actually walked about 16 kilometers back and forth, and I pitched my project, and lo and behold, they said that they'll be interested. Fast forward, dealing with depression, insomnia, and addiction to painkillers, and of course some internal battles personally during that time. You sort of begin to realize that you want to get rich, but money is not everything. So as the project developed, as I learned a lot more, as I met people like Tiki, who's on the line, as we went through our road shows, and as we raised the money, as each steps of the way, right from pitching to for example, from pitching to Old Mutual, to pitching to the Russian president, and various other platforms, I learned that what's my purpose, what's my purpose for this business. I developed a passion for renewable energy because of the setbacks I had experienced as a youth, because Zimbabwe is very startup unfriendly. I began to see the challenges that we all face when we're trying to start a business. I began to empathize, and I began to experience and walk through that journey each and every day. And then I began to realize one thing, to say, look, it's good to make money, but am I going to be able to create something that lasts? And am I going to be able to create something that is remembered? And am I going to be able to create something that can sort of form the nucleus that my fellow youths and my friends can also leverage on, and we can all create one big ecosystem? I began to understand the challenges of renewable energy, how they affect small SMEs, people in rural areas, the importance it is to their livelihoods, and that sort of defined my purpose. Because Zimbabwe is not a friendly country to do business. I'm sure you all hear it on the news. We constantly have social economic problems, political issues, so it's not easy to get to financial closure. But I think what always carried me along the way is that mantra to say, look, I want to create something that's going to be remembered. So yes, it's good to make money. Eventually we will, but I want to create something that's going to have a purpose, that's going to have an impact on its surrounding communities, and that's going to be a template for those like me, or those who come after me when they want to do business. So I then became heavily involved in programs with the UN. Tiki came along as well. And as we sort of modeled our company around the ethos of shared value. So some of the things that we do, and we're currently doing this with UNESCO in Zimbabwe for work in SDGs, is we like to empower youths and women in our solar projects. So we're currently developing 5 megawatt solar projects that will be located in rural areas. We'll have youth and women along the entire value chain. And from the revenues from those projects, we want to filter them down to microgrids, as well as productive energy projects in various rural areas that will see people's livelihoods improve. And I feel that by me defining my purpose and sort of having this mindset as to what sort of impact I'm going to create in my community, has given me the strength to operate in a very difficult environment. And the reason being is we've had so many setbacks at Oxygen, but we continue to work. We continue to push through. Whereas if I was motivated by profit, then the books of the company or the project pipeline, and pretty much you put that against the macroeconomic environment, would dictate that, listen, you need to cut your losses and close down the business and try something else. But I feel my lesson to people in the room is that once you're able to define your purpose as to why you exist, that will become a source of strength. Once you're able to look at your environment and realize that probably in Lesotho, and probably my fellows at Stanbic will realize this. An economy is always controlled by a select group of companies. What is the next generation of enterprises? And when you build your next generation of enterprises, considering that matters of climate change are now at the forefront. I mean, we're in Zimbabwe right now. It's the 30th of October and the rains haven't come. So climate change is real. It's now here. It's no longer a myth. If you don't look at your businesses in terms of what sort of impact they have on their communities, the environment, are they sustainable? The question is, how are you guaranteed you're going to pass on that business to the next generation in your family? Because we're not too sure what the world is going to look like or if it's going to be there at all. So I think business has to take an about turn at the present moment, whereby it's no longer focusing on the bottom line, which is always essential, your return to the shareholders, your debt service coverage ratio to your banks, etc. But we need to understand how we take care of the environment that we operate in, because this is the environment that when we leave work, we live in actual fact. And I feel that, with what I've seen and with what I've with the sort of approach we have taken at Oxygen, we've sort of made shared value and SDGs at the forefront. And we've sort of started to realize a lot of successes, especially lately, especially during COVID. We've started to see a lot of companies who now recognize the same coming to us, asking how we should do it, whether we can collaborate. But I don't think I would have been here, considering where I started and how I described where I started, if I did not define my purpose. So my purpose was the most important thing, if I look in hindsight, that carried me through. My purpose as an entrepreneur, as the promoter of the business, which could be your purpose as an executive, as a CEO, or even an intern, is what is going to define the role, or I know you may not like this, but your license to operate in a particular environment. Your purpose is what is going to make you look to your peers, if they're young businessmen in this room, right? To say, look, guys, I've got this idea, but what other complementary ideas or businesses do you guys have so that we can work together and have an impact on our community? We've seen it in Zimbabwe, whereby most businesses are now located in the larger cities, and it's left the smaller towns derelict. But when you look at it, if I go back to my small town, I see most of my colleagues trying to do one thing or the other. And I say, listen, if one of us makes it, all of us must all make it. Our community must feel the difference. We must be able to speak with reverence, just like we used to talk of guys like Mr. Van Niedenberg from Marondera, who through Mitchell and Mitchell employed 90% of the population in the high density suburbs of Marondera, who there was an ecosystem of money moving from retail to agriculture to service businesses, because it was a shared value model where people realized that businesses must feed off each other and take care of each other in the community. So my drive per se is pretty much to see how 10 years from now, 20 years from now, many years from now, when people look back at Oxygen Africa and look back at myself, it would be nice, of course, to say he was like Elon Musk or Jeff Bezos. He made so much money, but I think I'll be more satisfied to sort of people to look at my business and say, this is what he did. These are the footprints that he left. This is the impact that he left. I sort of talked to my friends, and the other time I was actually talking to my girlfriend. I said, look, if I ever make $20 million, I'd rather explore the world and be a bum, because my purpose is done. If my business takes off the ground, if I can see people plowing the fields, kids in the rural areas have internet access, they have access to clean water. If I can see businesses that are in urban areas move to rural areas because there's a provision for energy, and know that in some small measure, Oxygen played a part in that development. This is what will be important for me, and I hope that from the little words that I've said, we can have someone in the room that can sort of see that there's a different way to do business, and I can inspire you to join me on this particular journey Thank you very much.
Wow. Thank you so much, Simba, for such an inspiring story of a business leader that speaks to a lot of important issues, such as defining your business purpose, and that it is okay to make money, but can your business create a social impact that can last? I think this is what we call intergenerational value creation. Thank you so much, Simba. I now want to turn over to our panelists to share their experience with creating and implementing shared value in their various organizations. And I'm going to do this by way of asking them a few questions. Karen, I want to start with you. Karen, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, thank you so much.
Yeah.
Now, you come from Safaricom, and Safaricom is known and celebrated as a purpose-driven shared value organization, having just made the Fortune 50 companies changing the world list. Now, my question to you is, what do you believe is the key ingredient for a company, any company, to start and stay on their purpose journey? Karen?
Thank you so much, Dishaba, and thank you for the warm welcome to Lesotho. Indeed, we will come when the time is right. It is certainly gratifying to earn that recognition, and I must state that it did not come overnight. It came out of a foundation that was laid in our startup days 20 years ago. Coincidentally, Safaricom is celebrating 20 years, and we had our birthday last week, and we've carried on the celebration this week. From the setup of Safaricom, we decided to be a purpose-driven organization. So our purpose, as you've seen in Vuyo's slides, is transforming lives. And this is premised on placing people and the planet before profits. It's premised on reputation before revenue. So when I look at Safaricom, from the time we set up, we were set up to be a purpose-led company. So we had a purpose at the core of the organization. Then we came with the vision, the mission, and the likes. But when I look back at the history and I look at the time we are operating in, at no other time in history have corporates been tested on this commitment as we have seen this year. Thanks to the global pandemic, we know that we cannot succeed in isolation. What can happen if we assume that a telco is an island in the face of this pandemic? Can we succeed in a world that is facing unprecedented disruption from a global economy if we do not stand on the shoulder with the communities? So for us, the communities have been the place we operate in. And as a business, we have come to understand that we cannot be successful if the communities in which we depend on are not successful. So to my questions that I've just asked, would we succeed in this world if we didn't have the shoulders of our communities? The simple answer is no. So we have played our part in the society. And so for Safaricom, what we have done, and I like that Vuyo has brought in some of our shared value products like the M-Copper, where Safaricom was behind it. So what we have done is we look at the society in which we operate in, and we say we want to solve a societal problem. And most of the times, actually, in the problems that we are solving, we never say this is going to be profitable. For us, it's can this project or can this product be sustainable? And does it meet the needs of the society? And does it meet Safaricom's needs? And when we innovate around such products, at the end of the day, they become so successful and profitable. So I like using M-Pesa, the mobile money product that Safaricom launched. Actually, when this was launched, I think in 2010 or thereabout, it was supposed to be a loss-making venture. But what were we solving? Those days in Kenya, I'm not sure about the rest of, about Lesotho, but here in Kenya, if you needed to send money to your mother in the village, you had to either give your uncle who's going, so look for a relative, take the money, and chances are they'll disappear with the money, or put it in public transport, then your parents wait for the money on the other side. So when M-Pesa came in, for Safaricom, it was, how do we help people send money? And I remember people laughed saying, how can you send money virtually? How can you hold money in your phone? And I think it is the most celebrated innovation out of Africa for the last like 10 years. And it's been a great innovation for us. So what am I saying, Dichaba? I'm saying that the ingredients you need first is to have a purpose, is to look at your mission, what do you want to do, what do you want to achieve, and then place those before profits, and then look at the community in which you're working in, and you will be surprised that this is exactly what makes Safaricom what it is. So in conclusion, we at Safaricom, we derive our shared value kinetics from our purpose. So the purpose was right. The purpose set for us the benchmark or the place to leapfrog in creating shared value. We are here and we believe we are here for the long haul. We want to be here for 100 years. We are in it for good, and we derive our staying power from this purpose. And our purpose has shared value at the center of it. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Karen. Karen says the first ingredient for your business should be to identify your purpose. Thank you so much. Let me now introduce our next panelist, Mema Motake Matekane, who heads the Communications and Marketing Department at Matekane Group of Companies, MGC. MGC is active in various industries, which include aviation, infrastructure, hospitality, and many more. And most of us in Lesotho are witnesses to the many social impact initiatives driven by MGC. Now, Mema Motake, in your role within MGC, have you noticed any shift in the narrative and a need for business to do more than just focus on profit? Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you so much, Ndatedi Chaba, and we really appreciate being part of this program today. For the longest time that actually our purpose has been profit. And we did not understand our founder, Mr. Sam Matekane, for many years when he kept on giving and giving and giving. We didn't understand that. But I must admit that we did not understand the concept of shared value. At the time, we were very much focused on corporate social investment. And for the past 6 years or so, I think we are slowly moving into addressing the SDGs that have been set, and we are ticking a few boxes. But I must say, first and foremost, our biggest challenge, what I've noticed in the country as a company viewing what has been happening in the society, has been misplaced. We have a culture shift. We need to do a culture shift. We have a misplaced spirit of competition. And that being said, we want to compete with one another instead of complementing and collaborating our companies in order for us to be more impactful to the communities in which we operate. So it's important that we reprioritize where our stance, so that we can commit fully into prioritizing things such as quality and standards, so that we can still aim for supporting local businesses in order to make profit, but also enhancing and developing local companies. It's very important to us as MGC, and I think it's important for other corporates also to adopt this. We don't have to keep on giving to the people and giving to the communities in which we operate. We need to start equipping these people. This way, we still achieve our purpose of getting profits as a company, but also developing these communities. I think COVID-19 has made us realize that it's very important for us to focus on the survival of the people. Because without the people, our businesses cannot survive. We thrive because the people exist. So now it just dawned on me that the concept of shared value has been a practice in our company. So for the past 6 years or so, what we have done in the Mansunyan area, as most people that are from Lesotho would know, and for our international audience today, we have built a school that is multifaceted. We have a stadium, a fully equipped stadium there. We have now started also agricultural projects. We have poultry, we have piggery, we have planted trees. We have done so much for the community there, because we're saying this community always expects for us to give and give and give. But now we need to equip them so that we are all making profit in the process. So in the process, we are teaching them also that you need to learn how to manage and sustain your own business. Know that you and I are partners in this. So if this project fails, you fail. So this is how we are saying we are giving back, but also adding value and adding into the economy so that we can improve our country. COVID-19 has showed us that it is important for everyone to be able to survive, be sustainable in order for us to achieve our goals. Collaborations are very, very important at this crucial moment. So it's profit versus survival. And if we combine these together in a strategic way, then we are able to survive. So profit still remains important, but also collaborations with communities so that we can equip them to be better skilled and improve their economies. Then we are sure to survive as a country.
Thank you so much, Mia. Thank you so much. You mentioned a lot of important things, and I think one of them that I like is the fact that there is expectations by communities from our business. I think that's really important, and you addressed that very well. Our next panelist is Ntate Lerata Pekane, and I think it is fitting to say Ntate Lerata is a serial entrepreneur, a voluntary ambassador for the Lesotho Chamber of Commerce and Industry, and the founder and patron of a social enterprise movement called I Am a Change Agent. But Lerata, you have various qualifications and you wear different hats as an entrepreneur and leading your social movement. Can an entrepreneur looking to address a social issue also make profit? In other words, can the two ends coexist, or are they mutually exclusive?
Yes, actually, you can start with a profit, but eventually have a moral purpose where that program, or you can actually have a moral purpose at first, and then realize at the end it actually gives you avenues for making more profits. As is the case for I'm a Change Agent, it was just an initiative that came out of having been a leader. And when you retire as leaders, you find that you have a lot of influence, you have a lot of networks, and you have a lot of people that follow you. And sometimes when you vacate a position, doesn't mean you vacate the responsibility to still serve the people. So what I did, I started a movement to continue the conversation with the people, and more so to expand it. What I had gained as a young professional and indeed an accountant, and one very key thing that I learned out of that profession was the need for continuous professional development or ongoing learning. And with ongoing learning, you find that you have appreciation of the vast majority of subjects cutting across culture, business, environment, people, and all other subjects. And the more you learn, the more you understand the issues around you better, and the more you relate and interact with the environment based on the knowledge that you have. So our platform was mainly to create a platform where people can have conversations, where we can link established and successful leaders to talk to aspiring people, irrespective of their qualification. And we found that platform working very much. We had like radio programs, social media platforms. We had seminars that we were holding sometimes every month, sometimes at the district, sometimes at the request of our potential customers. And what we did, and when we did that, I found that our business grew because of what we are doing outside. Even though it was not part of the plan, but the moral purpose, and like they say about leadership, it's in order for you to be effective, you must have the moral purpose, or must be working on building that moral purpose. So since we already had the moral purpose, we found that people support us more for the cause that we are involved in, and it tends to radiate or rub off your business. So like I said, you can make profits and still serve or do an impactful event or program, or you can do an impactful program which in turn will open opportunities for you to make profits. But like they said, it's as a leader, you realize that you got there somehow. And once you are up there at the top, your responsibility is now to extend your helping hand to others to see their dreams and to see or to make better versions of you. And that's for me, the most that I've taken out of it. And I'm saying this with the privilege of having worked in various industries at a very young age and having tried a number of projects, and which very few people are ever exposed to. But having that also urges you to try to make more offering. And most importantly, I think it's spiritual. When you do an impactful thing, you sort of have a sense of peace that nobody can buy, or you cannot sell it either. And that purpose keeps you going. You do things even when there's nothing. It's like passion. It drives you whether or not there is money, because it's something you enjoy doing. In short, that's what I would say in that day, Chaban. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Daddy. Whilst we are at it, I have a follow-up question for you. You have been part of government as a principal secretary. And my question to you is, do you think governments or regulators or policymakers have a role to play in driving or embedding shared value? And if yes, what is that role?
Most definitely. Perhaps the reason I even got into that office was because of the campaign that I was involved in. With that much of what you call social capital, it actually worked as a political capital that got me into the office. And you would know that one of the things that we pushed aggressively was entrepreneurship generally, support for domestic businesses, especially SMMEs. And we also came up with a couple of initiatives that were thought to be very disruptive. And the reason they were disruptive is because to change that which Memamtek was talking about, the change of the mindset, the way we look into things, how productive, how entrepreneurial are our policies, how aware are our policies, because some people, if you have the leadership of people that may not have the appreciation of the various subjects, that limitation will indeed reflect in the kind of policies that kind of government comes with. So the ability to have been in that side and in that circle to also try to influence from within, which was a sacrifice, I must say, and it was a very huge risk. But it paid off because you were able to have a bit of an impact, and perhaps you can only wish that people have learned that to be in a ministry that is leading business and coming from business is different from being a person who is employed to work with business without the appreciation of the business concept. I guess for the most people, it will be a point of reference of seeing what behavioral implications and what sort of tone the government has when you are deliberating putting some of these people in these positions, very much aware of their organization-wide or life-wide exposure.
Thank you so much, Dr. Lerata. I want to bring back Simba. Simba, with your company Oxygen Africa focusing on renewable energy space, which aligns with one of the Sustainable Development Goals, how important do you think it is for business to align with the SDGs when looking at social and environmental? Simba?
Thank you. I think aligning with SDGs are pretty much a template for a more sustainable future and a more sustainable world. I think it's important because the health of your business is a direct reflection of the health of the environment that you operate in. So for example, if you're a bank, for example, and you're in a particular location, and that location has got a population with little or no income, how are you going to, you in Stanbic, how are you going to accumulate liabilities in terms of depositors? How are you going to loan out money in terms of interest bearing assets? If you're a business that's in retail manufacturing and the community around you cannot afford to buy your product, how are you going to guarantee the health of your business? How are you going to guarantee its future sustainability as well? How are you going to ensure that you've got the best human resource or human capital to produce the best products? So the SDGs are quite important because they touch on every aspect that creates a sustainable world. And they're not in the interest of the UN that pretty much came up with the SDGs, but they're in the interest of you as a business person to say, I need my business to have a life of its own and to grow and to expand into the future. How healthy is the environment that I operate in, where I get my resources? How healthy is my clientele, right? Who I sell my products to. So this is where I see the SDGs dovetail with business. So if you look at, for example, Karen and M Copper, right? M Copper gives people the ability to have electricity, right? Now, what are they going to do with that electricity? They're going to charge their phones. What are they going to do with those phones? They're going to use data. They're going to use telecoms products that are pretty much products of Safaricom. So Safaricom identifies a niche. Our communities need access to communication as a foundation. They need access to renewable energy. What this then translates to is increased usage of data and mobile products, which enable Safaricom to grow as a business.
Thank you so much. Let me stay with you because there's a question coming in from attendees addressed to you, Simba. And the question is, how do you manage expectations from your community?
Well, I think the key to managing expectations from the community or well, probably people around you is pretty much be pragmatic, right? And so, for example, let me give you a good example of solar. Everyone assumes when you read a solar project that someone is constructing 70 megawatts at 70 million. They assume that it's large amounts of money, right, that are going to exchange hands. So what we've tended to do is really explain to the people that we operate in, like in the program that we're doing with the UN, the entire value chain of renewable energy and where they can potentially fit in, right? So I think a lot of it is educate people about your business. When you talk about your business, educate people about your business and manage those expectations. This is one of the things that we've done. Although we haven't really faced a scenario whereby expectations have been mismatched, but in terms of where we're operating at the present moment, we do explain the entire value chain so that people understand exactly what renewable energy can do, from an output perspective, what they can expect from an economic growth perspective, what they can expect from a project perspective in terms of probably financial benefits or being part of the value chain.
Thank you so much, Simba. Now, the World Bank has estimated that a staggering 23 million Africans may have been pushed into poverty as a result of the challenges brought by COVID-19. And this, I believe, elevates the role of business even further in solving the social challenges in a sustainable manner and places at the core of this recovery process the concept of shared value. Now, to understand how this can be attained, I'm going to engage our panelists even further. And I want to start with you, Simba and Ndatelegata. COVID-19 showed us that it is no longer business as usual. And this just added to the already existing societal issues or challenges. And how important are young entrepreneurs in driving this transformation journey to a more equal society? This is for the both of you.
I think from my perspective, well, let me give you a perspective of renewable energy. Everyone wanted to go for the large projects, the large, commercial projects, utility scale projects. But for those commercial projects, most people started working from home, right? So if you've got a project that you're doing for example, for Vodacom, Lesotho, and then everyone's working from home, no one uses your electricity. So people then realize that with more people staying at home and working from home, there's a need for you to have bankable business models or products and services for people at homes, because that's where they're operating from. They need connectivity. So we've seen a surge, or actually quite a tremendous rise in home solar solutions. So I think young people can then drive a new way of working, and a new way of working, new business models that take into consideration the challenges that we face this year. Because let's be quite frank, all the companies tend to be quite rigid. And this is not because they're dinosaurs. I mean, they've been doing what they've been doing well for a number of years. But young people can now take opportunities in areas of fintech, when you look at financing, in areas of online retail, in areas of provision of energy, in areas of small scale businesses as opposed to large scale businesses, where people can do them from their various locations in a socially distanced manner, if you're talking in terms of COVID. So there is an opportunity to, as I always say, to never waste a good crisis.
Thank you. Ndadel, your thoughts, please?
Thank you very much. That one of the things that we have seen is employment in general has proven to be very not reliable. And as an alternative, I would personally recommend that people consider having some form of a business. And I won't duplicate what Simba has already talked about the need to embrace the technology that enables you to work from wherever you come from. But also, with COVID came new opportunities. With Lesotho importing most of what they consume, what we saw during this time, we saw a lot more people consuming things that have actually been produced locally. And certain theories around standards and stuff, especially when it comes to agricultural produce, were also tested and found that when it comes to survival, people are willing to consume what is available in the market, which means there is now an encouragement for people to continue producing. Key to employment and versus entrepreneurship is entrepreneurship itself. Entrepreneurship offers one ability to fine-tune your leadership skills, but also with it, there's about 5 essential capabilities that are key. One is the capability to adapt and to renew oneself. COVID came and we needed to adapt and renew ourselves and live within the context of COVID. And the other one was the ability to interact with the external environment, which is a key capability for entrepreneurs. We needed to embrace WHO pronouncements, the constant change in regulations from time to time, the constraints of the border meant different survival skills needed to be deployed. Another is the capability to commit to entrepreneurial objective. With that, there's always one which perhaps speaks to why I use I am a change agent, because the I is more important for the commitment to say I commit to do things. So the capability to act and commit is very key. And last but not least important is the capability for coherence. Times like this have demonstrated that we needed to work together, whether it's government, whether it's civil society, whether it's neighbors, all aspects of the community need to come together to find a solution to the challenges that we're facing. Thank you very much.
Collaboration. Thank you so much. Karen, this one is for you. There is a lot of discussion around the importance of purpose or purpose-led organizations. And big businesses around the world are beginning to make the shift. What is your view on business purpose and purpose-led organizations? And do you believe this is the way forward?
Yes, businesses can play a unique role in finding solutions, as I've demonstrated before, to the world's most pressing problems that we face today. I think gone are the days when the business of business was simply business and profits. That was the short-term view that the older businesses did. And if I knew much about Lesotho, I would have named for you a few that are dead, some of those dinosaur businesses. But here in Kenya, we've seen businesses that never transformed into purpose-led businesses. They were left behind. When I was growing up, we had various nice products that we used, but to date, you will never find those products. And so every business needs to have purpose at the center of the business for it to be a sustainable business. So today's reality is that if you're not a purpose-driven business, and even right now in COVID has shown us that we need sustainability, we need purpose, we need resilience, we need to create value for the society. So when we see that the businesses that have thrived in this duration, that those businesses that were saying something or doing something for society. I like what Lerata has said. He has just said that during this COVID time, people have seen you can consume what is available. What if businesses in the past had focused on that, creating value for your society, the society in which you are in? Because as a business, we cannot operate in an unjust and an unequal environment. So shared value and purpose brings justice to the center. It brings equality. Right now in Kenya, if I just give an example, our children are at home during this COVID period. It has shown us the biggest inequalities. In those children who can afford, they're going through online learning. Their life has not been destabilized at all. The children who can't afford in the rural areas, in the slums, let me just say the bottom of the economic pyramid, they're playing out here doing nothing. So what has Safaricom done as a purpose-driven business? We had already innovated on a product called Eneza. This is a revision tool. So we decided, even if you have the 2G feature phone, you will access it for free. Because to us, what are we saying? We are a purpose-driven business. Our purpose is to transform lives. We want to transform the lives of these children. Therefore, we will give them free education content. Access it. We will not charge you for the data. We will not charge you for anything. So for me, when I look at how purpose is coming through in these times, I can say it's not a question of believing whether it works. We live it every day. We have seen it, that we've seen that it works, even in the little examples I'm saying. That's how we grew up from 20 years ago being a startup to being East Africa's biggest and largest company with Pan-African and global ambitions. So yes, putting purpose at the center is the way forward. If you put profits, you will not survive.
Beautiful, beautiful stuff. I think this is a very good example of a purpose-driven business strategy. Thank you, Karen. We have a question from our attendees addressed to Mema Motake. And the question is, how do we motivate our local companies to look more at collaboration than worrying about keeping their competitive edge? Is it a cultural change? Mema Motake?
Thank you, Dad. Yes, I think it's very important for corporates to realize that we need a culture shift, like I said before. We need to change our culture in who will get there first, who will survive better than the other. That needs to change, because if companies or corporates still think that way, then it poses a challenge for everybody else to then be able to survive. Big corporates, it's our duty and responsibility to ensure that small companies grow. If we cannot do that, we need to create a value chain that is inclusive of all the SMMEs and everybody else. If MGC, for example, gets a big contract, why would I, for example, we operate at a mine where we do haulage. There are other elements of our mining contracts that we don't really have to do. We have drilling and blasting and whatnot. Why do we have to do that ourselves when we can subcontract someone else to do it? That way we are improving someone else's company. But it's very uncomfortable because everybody wants to be the richest amongst the richest. So that is the challenge. So if we don't change our mindsets as corporates, that's the challenge that we will always be facing. I'll make you an example. Even in a corporate, you find that a manager or a leader in a company is so afraid to hire someone else that's more qualified or comes with more innovative ideas because they think they're going to replace them. It works the same as in a corporate. So these people are afraid, and they will gatekeep because they are afraid that this person will surpass them. So that is the challenge that we have. So I think companies should sit down and readjust, especially post-COVID, because otherwise these people become a burden to us, because you'll find that people come and say, Mayor, can you please assist us with food parcels? Why would you want to help with food parcels when we can help these people grow their own food? So we need to lead towards that direction so that the whole country, like I said before, can be sustainable other than depend on the rich and successful to be feeding them all the time. So if you equip this person, then you ensure that this person is walking this journey with me. They are also sustainable. I'm also feeding skills, feeding subcontracts and whatnot to them so that they as well can grow. So that area of competition, I said before, it's very unhealthy at this point. We need to rectify that.
So this is about capacity building and empowerment, and
Yes,
this
sir.
leads to sustainability. Thank you so much, Mme. I want to bring Simba back on. Simba, how easy is it for a business case? How easy is it to make a business case through identifying a social issue and building a business opportunity around it? In other words, Shedlelu.
Thank you. I think it pretty much, in short, goes to the principle where the most successful businesses solve a simple problem, right? So, which means once you do that, for example, if you look at energy generation, it's a product that is consumed where it is generated. It's something that everyone has to have. They don't have a choice. So in an area where there's lack of electricity, you're pretty much starting a business solving a social issue. Access to running water, biodigesters. These are ideas whereby you could make quite a bit of money by solving a social issue. It's much easier than trying to introduce an entirely new product to a society or to a community that may or may not have a need for your product, first of all, or may not be able to afford it. But look at the prevailing problems in that community and come up with a simple solution that could be your opportunity for success.
Beautiful, beautiful. Tatela Gata and Mema Motake, this one goes to the both of you. And speaking to the private sector, specifically in Lesotho, would you say there is any opportunity for the private sector as a collective to collaborate? A lot has been said about collaboration. Do you think we have an opportunity for the private sector in Lesotho to collaborate, whether through supporting SMEs or the society at large?
If I may, Tatela Gata, thank you, Ndate Chava. I think there is a big opportunity for corporates to collaborate. I'll say this because, listen, markets are not looking for MGC to say, I can provide you with 100,000 chickens a year. Markets are looking for reliability, consistency in supply and all that. So yes, there is a huge gap in terms of us not collaborating. We need to start collaborating, because then you give whoever is on the other end the assurance that I know for sure that I'm safe in the hands of this group of people, because they are well capable of doing as they promised to do. So collaboration is I cannot stress it enough. There has been something that's been going around in town. People have been shocked that at times I come across representing Lipima Executive Transport. And they were like, this is very confusing. We know you as Mamotake Matikani from MGC, and now you're talking about selling cement. MGC has no intention of going into cement. MGC buys, into construction, buys cement from Executive Transport under Multi-Mountain Cement. Why then is it a problem if I, from a different company, can say, buy the cement? It's locally produced, it belongs to a Lesotho. Why don't we support one another? You see, that's where the problem is. The minute you think someone is an enemy, other than taking them, bringing them closer to you and saying, how can we help one another grow bigger and also reach out to more people? That's where we are a bit misplaced, and we need to fix that. Thank you.
Thank you, Ma'am. Tatilgata, your thoughts, please.
Yes, that I would not have put it any better than she did. There is it's almost non-negotiable, the need to collaborate. When we're talking perhaps collaboration, you're talking of a parent who is around in the house, then you know the kids will behave because of visibility. And what collaboration does, it enables you and gives you that visibility to these multiple stakeholders so that they note your presence and they note your participation. And that on its own gets you or them or the mutual trust between the two parties is improved. And it helps in the change process. You know, sometimes when there's a big program, there's little resistance because you have already engaged before, you're working with it together. But if you do it alone, you'll have to lobby so much and the resistance can be so much. So yes, it's not negotiable at all. We can collaborate, and there are people that are already collaborating even out there. Just yesterday, I know we got a letter from the Chamber of Commerce, from the Lesotho Highlands Development Authority, about the communities that were getting compensation in the past, and they tried businesses, but they were not viable. So they changed the model of compensation to now consumptive. The problem with consumptive compensation is it does not really improve the quality of life of the people. So what LHDA is doing is they've come to the chamber to say, how can we work together to make sure that the compensation model that works is a lot more sustainable than a consumptive one that we've been dealing with. And in the process, through the chamber, we'll be talking to your organization that they cover, the Standard Bank, the banks, everybody that has a role to play, and other players in the private sector as well, to say, how do we form or do we offer an alternative to the current means of where these funds are deployed so that we get maximum output out of it. So collaboration is very important in that.
Thank you so much. This brings me to my next question. Logically, is shared value, and this goes to all of us, is shared value universal, or is it industry or sector specific? Is it a one size fits all model? Anyway.
I feel the concept is universal, but obviously each particular sector and each particular company has to look for a model that suits it, that is specific to itself. So I would say the principle is universal, but as a sector specific company, you pick what works for you.
Great.
Yeah.
Anyone who wants to try this?
Yeah. I think shared value is the concept that should be embedded by every business. Yeah, because what is the role of business in society? What are you doing as a business? You're addressing a societal problem, right? So shared value brings that societal problem to the front, where you're using the business assets, resources, with technology, knowledge to address that society. There's a leadership expert known as Jim Stengel, and he did a 10-year growth study to determine that organizations who have purpose improve the lives of their customers, outperform competitors and the market as a whole. And I cannot stress enough that shared value right now in COVID times and post-COVID recovery is what we should be looking at. For instance, if you look at now here in Kenya, there's companies that have been doing food production. that have been struggling because we've been importing everything, including onions from Tanzania. But when the borders were closed, these farmers, what did they do? They came together and realized we have little onions. We like the Tanzanian onions, of course, but we can do our own. So what have we learned in these times? Small businesses, MSMEs, have cropped up, taking advantage of the opportunity that is there right now. So for me, creating shared value is a no-brainer, and it is indeed what will carry us now and out of these situations.
Great, thank you, Karen. There's another question from one of our attendees, Mati Sezu, and I think it speaks to financial institutions. And it says, how can we get governments and financial institutions to level the playing field to create the right platforms for businesses to be able to operate? How can we get them to listen to what we want from them? This goes to all of us.
Ditshaba? Oh, okay. Please go ahead in that.
Ladies first.
Okay, I think we need to understand also that there is an element of risk in every business, especially now during COVID-19. The banks also have to remember they have to recover from all the loans that they issued before, pre-COVID and during COVID. So that is very important for them also to still stay afloat. So for them to still support upcoming businesses and also supporting us in order for the economy to get back into the wheel again, it's an exercise that needs a lot of assessment, a lot of strategy, because we have to be fair to them as well. How do you lend someone when you know that they no longer have a job, and the possibilities of getting another job they're very slim? And to be honest, we want to create entrepreneurs out of everyone, but we know that's not possible. So we have to create an entrepreneurial spirit in everyone. That way, a person knows that in order for me to survive, there are certain things that I need to ensure for my sustainability. So that's very important. And I think it's a wide discussion that will need a different day, but it's a catch-22 situation for the banks as well.
Thank you so much, Tatelagata. You may come in now.
Yes, that one, yes, they are, and sometimes you need even better institutions like your development finance institutions with a mandate that is developmental. So as a commercial bank, your mandate is commercial. The risk management is very key. We cannot fight them for doing that. And we know that the commercial institutions are mostly viable for already established businesses, but for startups, they are not. And hence where the space for development finance institution plays, and which we have very little or none of them in Lesotho, but we get in there. The other thing is always understanding, and we talked shared value, understanding the source of the money that is in these banks, even when they are commercial. The money comes from the same people, from the same businesses that perhaps you're not helping them. And to those people, the question should be, can't you organize yourselves better? And that's why some have had cooperatives, savings and credit cooperatives that play on the lower market, that have less strict rules on applying ourselves perhaps. And what comes to mind at the end of the day is the code I saw some time yesterday around middle class. We have a lot of money, but have very little ideas to use the money. And the higher class, which has a lot of ideas and know how to use the money. So at the end of the day, the middle class or the lower ones just put the money in the banks for the big guys to come and use it because they have more ideas than the money they have. And it's something that we all have to reflect upon, that at the end of the day, to say the money is in the banks and that money comes from us. We could not organize ourselves better, and we trusted the banks to do that job for us. But the banks have different set of rules in lending. which make it a lot more difficult for a lot of smaller business to have access to. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Melinda. Simba, I want to bring you back again. And I think it was Vuyo who mentioned assessment of shared value in an organization. And I want you to share with us your thoughts around how shared value can be measured in a company or any organization.
I think for that, I would say engage the experts. From our company's perspective, it's pretty much simple. We measure it by the number of households or communities that we connect, but each business should be able to at least invest resources to bring in someone to help them through that shared value journey so that they can understand it. That is probably why you saw in the beginning of the conversation, Vuyo was explicitly clear when she was trying to differentiate that shared values, not CSR, and a number of things. So having platforms, bringing in experts that can do a shared value plan or KPI matrix that is specific to your organization would be key.
Thank you, Simba. Mema Motak. I would like you to tell us if MGC has done anything new as a response to COVID-19. In other words, has COVID-19 sort of revealed or exposed any new markets for your company?
Okay, the first part of your question, what has MGC done during COVID-19? So my understanding and our understanding as the company is that we cannot exist in isolation from the people. So our people are very, very important. So you keep the people alive, you keep your company alive. So that's very important. So what we did was to contribute towards the solution towards COVID-19 by buying equipment for the government in order for them to continue testing, because it's important to manage the virus in the country, especially for those that cannot afford to do that themselves. There are people that cannot afford to go to your private laboratories and test. So the first thought that came to mind was that, what about the vulnerable people? So hence we said, let's support government so that they can manage the disease in the country. So that was we still had in mind that it's important for us to manage the disease or the virus in the country so that we can go back to being active again in the economy, because those are the people that we need in order to be active. So that is the first thing that we did. And we answered to many other needs, the needs of ICU beds and whatnot, because of the very same reason. But a few weeks ago, I was actually a panelist at a youth entrepreneurship workshop, where I told them that they should say to themselves, COVID-19, you are a blessing. And some of them looked at me funny, was like, how can you say COVID-19 is a blessing? But it's a blessing because it exposed all these opportunities. It exposed the challenges that we knew we had as a country, but now they were more bare than before. Because now it says, why are we, like Karen just said, why are we importing vegetables? It doesn't make sense at all. We have ample land, we have water, we have a clean air, we have huge sites for us to grow our own vegetation. Why are we importing those? It inspired most people, including me. I didn't like agriculture, including myself. I'm now a farmer. And otherwise that would have never happened, I'm telling you. You leave me with your pot plant, I water it, it dies. But now I know the importance of engaging with this plant so that it can grow. So opportunities that came with the pandemic was that exposure of opportunities. Hence, we have started the poultry farm, the piggery farm, and all the vegetation that we are doing in Tabatseka, in Mansunyane. That's very important. And it's important to answer to the whole value chain. After we grow this, all these products, then what happens? Do we package them? We need storage, we need logistics, we need to transport them. Who is our market? We need to secure the market. It comes to that point again of collaboration. If I know that Ndadedi Chaba has a farm in Mokotlong and grows potatoes, and I'm growing the same potatoes in Mansunyane, why don't we then say to Pick and Pay or to Pick and Pay International or South Africa, say to them, listen, we can produce a certain tonnage of potatoes for you per month, because now we have collaborated and we can guarantee them supply. So that's very important. That's where collaboration is very, very important. So we still need to go back and tap into how can we do things together. And now we need for these to be transported, meaning someone else, I as MGC, I don't have to transport this. How about I engage another company that is into logistics to then transport this for me? So there's so many opportunities that have come out of COVID-19. We just need to not sit here and talk about them. We need to act. Thank you, Dad.
Thank you, ma'am. More awareness needed there, and perhaps a bit of innovation. Karen, I want to also hear your thoughts on the same question. Has COVID-19 exposed any new business opportunities for Safaricom?
Of course, yes. At Safaricom, we had started something called DigiFarm. So let me dwell a little bit on agriculture. Because here in Kenya, we say agriculture is the backbone of the economy. Many people are employed in agriculture. We are an agricultural country. We sit on the equator, perfect weather, long rain, short rain. But when we went to the universities, nobody studies agriculture, not even agribusiness. Everyone, like Matekane here, they do not want to do agriculture. So what did we do? COVID showed us that if we do not play our cards right, food insecurity would be a big issue. So that was one of the business opportunities. We already have that platform called DigiFarm. I think we even won an award in shared value. So DigiFarm brings together the farmers, the buyers, the people, everyone in the agricultural food chain, if I may call it. So what we saw in this time is to take this platform higher. So what did we do? We opened up the platform. So if I want to buy potatoes, as Matekane said, and there's a farmer who grows potatoes. So on our platform, the farmer who grows potatoes and the guy who wants to buy them meet. Then in that platform, there's the person who is giving you the produce, the fertilizer. We are giving you a soft loan to buy the correct produce and giving you an insurance in case your crops fail. So that opportunity has brought, I don't want to say sexy, but it has brought agriculture, sexy agriculture, for people like Matekane to take over and do it. So the youth in Kenya are slowly embracing this back. The other opportunity is using our technology to connect people. We were rolling out fiber, but not aggressively, because people had mobile data. You can access data anywhere. So it has shown us that homes, fiber to the home, is a great opportunity area. That is one. It has shown us financials. I know people think we will make money, but I'm not sure, I can't predict. But as a business, we've seen many more models that have come out. For instance, if I just step out of Safaricom and look at Kenya, the PPEs, the protective equipment for COVID, initially we were all importing from China. Now China is closed. They also need them. Everyone needs them. I have never seen our export processing zone so active. Here within Kenya, we have new organizations that are doing this PPE. There are people whose businesses were dying, but because of COVID, never waste a crisis. Because of COVID, they have found renewed purpose. Schools are closed. If you're in the business of making school desks, what are you going to do for the next few months that children are not in school? You quickly decide you'll do home working desks. So now people are working from home. So it's about reinventing yourself. So at Safaricom, we have seen a lot of reinvention. We have worked with our government. We have contributed and committed to supporting the government in terms of COVID. We have cushioned our customers. We have cushioned micro businesses and SMEs just to ensure that these people still survive. But what I can say is in this crisis, there've been some good light and hope with innovations that are coming out. So even us as a business, we are looking at health as a big place to a big space. So we developed something called Safiri Smart. Safiri in Swahili is travel. So if I want to live here, I enroll onto Safiri Smart. I can know if I'm going to Mombasa, there's these infections there. If I'm going here, there's this is a hotspot and that kind of thing. So what is it doing? Our technology has been brought to the forefront of innovation, and the youth are using our technology to innovate in different areas from health, agriculture, education, and that kind of thing. So yes, it has spurred so much innovation.
Great stuff, great stuff. Shared value, as presented earlier, we have been told that it is not a quick fix, neither is it a product. And this goes to all of us as well. I think it was this morning when I heard that some countries are reimposing lockdown. The first two being Germany and France. I think that was done today or yesterday. So this means we are not out of danger yet. Now the question is, would you say a purpose-led company has better chances of surviving this pandemic?
Chava, thank you so much. I think a purpose-led company has a better chance of surviving. I'll say this because at MGC, when we started, our slogan was a world of innovation, and no one understood what is it that you mean by a world of innovation. Even the employees, I think it will come also to the organizational culture. It's important for us to sell the idea of flexibility, innovation, while still having your core strategies in a company, because you need to have a solid corporate governance in order for you to survive. But innovation is the only way you can be able to survive in a company. Because I mentioned to my boss and the founder of the company, Mr. Sam Matikani, that listen, now we need to redefine the business model. We are in industries, two industries that are more driven by tourism. We have a hotel, meaning it's hospitality, and then we have aviation, we have aircrafts. So the question was, now during lockdown, a global lockdown, how do we survive? It's impossible for us to survive. Huge companies are not surviving. So what then happens? Keeping the equipment is even more costly because they're accumulating rental. Your aircraft are accumulating rental. You still have to maintain them. All those expenses will not go away. So hospitality, it's driven by tourism and an active economy because of business. So when you are stuck now with these corporates or with these assets, what do? You have to be innovative. You have to see other ways of utilizing these. So only an innovative company will be able to survive. And you need to instill in your human capital that they need to learn how to be flexible to the changes, so that we are always driven to creating solutions. If you are not solution driven, then you're a company that will definitely die. But if you are motivated by where is the need, how do I solve it? We have to always, regardless of your age, you have to think like a young person who goes and runs after a solution, because that's what they want to see. So only innovative companies, I think, will be able to survive. Right now, the companies that are surviving mostly are in ICT, healthcare services, food production, agriculture, the likes, because we always have to stay connected, we always have to eat, we always need health services. So you have to redefine the wheel. Thank you.
I think if I may add in there a little bit, if you look at and I can't wait to see the top brands after COVID. because this is where the proof will be in the top brands. Who are the top brands that have survived? But if you look at the top brands, all of them have purpose, and their purpose transcends their products and services. So as a brand, if you have to survive, if you have to move to the next level, your purpose must transcend that. So I look at things like when the brands that overemphasize on profits, I know there are companies where every meeting is all about where is the profit. In Safaricom, we don't do that. So if you look at the brands that overemphasize on profit as opposed to shared value and purpose, if you look inward in that organization, the employees only focus on short term. We are going to sell, we are going to make money now and move. There is little innovation. So of course they will never survive. Everyone is working in a silo. There's a lot of mediocrity. Of course, eventually this company will not survive. But if you look at a business modeled on shared value, it points an organization towards societal good. So right now, what is the societal good we can all be mining? It points a business to long-termism as opposed to short-termism. You know, in many companies, multinationals, the CEO comes for 4 years and he's gone. So the CEO's purpose is to ensure the company stays profitable. But if you remove the short-termism of profitability and put it in long-term view, you'll notice that there's constant innovation. This company will be innovating, they'll be collaborating, there'll be partnerships, and then the profits will flow naturally in the same direction. So if you look at the future, and if you're a young entrepreneur in this forum, as the one who was asking about financial, put the core of a societal value in your business, address something in the society, and you will not go wrong. You will be here longer than 100 years.
Beautiful, beautiful. Thank you so much to all our participants. Unfortunately, this is all we had time for. And I would like to thank you so much for all the insights. And at this stage, I will like to call Ntate Ntauta Seboka from Lesotho Chamber of Commerce and Industry just to give us some closing remarks. Ntate Ntauta? Ntate Seboka?
Thank you, Ntate Chaba. Allow me to commence my closing remarks by paying my respect to His Majesty the King, the III, and his government. And allow me to say all protocol observed and continue. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, may I, on my behalf of my organization, the Lesotho Chamber of Commerce and Industry, and on my own behalf, thank Ntate Salvador, Resident Coordinator, US, and his Shared Value Africa initiative introduced by Ms. Vuyo Lutseke, and everyone who contributed in oiling the wheels on this magnificent concept. Fortunately, Basotho have for decades been practicing and are quite accustomed to shared value concept. One, we have Matsema loosely translated as plowing together and sharing the produce. Two, siblings sharing whatever is on hand, regardless of how small it may be. In Sesotho, we say, just to mention but a few. Ntate Salvador, we cannot thank you enough for having introduced the shared value concept in this form. We are also cognizant of the fact that we are in the midst of a pandemic that has caused havoc in the world over. Day in, day out, infection and death rates are surging, and vaccine is nowhere in sight. Our only option is adherence to the WHO guidelines of washing hands regularly, wearing of masks, and social distancing. Yes, indeed, COVID-19 has impacted negatively on business and our livelihoods. We are gradually trying to adapt to our new normal. These are trying times, however. LCCI fully embrace this concept and have no doubt it shall grow from strength to strength. Program Director Dadedi Chaba Skosana, Keynote Speaker Mr. Zimba Mwirira, Panelist Mr. Lerata Pekani, Mrs. Mamutake Mansani Matikani, and Mrs. Karen Basie, the discussant, and to all participants who made time to be part of this auspicious event, we say thank you and hope there has been some take-home messages from our deliberations. And I therefore extend my heartfelt appreciation for the job well done. On this note, I declare the webinar officially closed. Thank you.
Thank you, Ndade, and thank you once again to all our speakers and delegates and the attendees for your questions and other participants. And I believe that time willing or time allowing, we will connect again in the future. Please stay. Bye-bye.
Yeah, they put me wide.